Hello and welcome to another episode of Showcasing North Leeds, where I'm on a mission to find all the businesses in North Leeds and put them on this podcast to showcase them far and wide. And I'm delighted to be joined by Anna from Nomify today.
Hi.
Thank you for joining me, Anna.
Thank you.
Can you please tell me and the world about Nomify and what it is that you do?
Yeah. So Nomify is a HR, well, it started off as a HR platform founded by my husband, Paul. So it was founded on the back of some work that he was doing for a large financial organisation down south. And it basically developed into an employee engagement platform.
Right.
So it's basically for businesses and it's their way to communicate with their employees. So it's your intranet. It's your ability to nominate colleagues for awards. It's your ability to recognise good work that they've done. It's your ability to manage the leave element of things.
Right.
It's your ability to upload documentation, store it, review it. So it's kind of all of that kind of stuff.
Rolled into one.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
and it's developed on from there in that the leave management aspect of the platform is now available on the App Store, and it's called Staff Leave, and it's an app that's completely free for businesses to download and use.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of developed again further, and last year we launched the HR consultancy arm, so that's where I step in.
Okay.
So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, Staff Leave very quickly because we use that.
Yeah.
And it works because we can literally see when the people are off.
Yeah.
And we've got a strict thing where we say that we don't want two people in the same department, let's just call it, off at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's easy for us to be able to see and everyone else to see who's off so they can work their holidays around it. So
exactly
I get
that. And that's why it's so perfect for small businesses who can't have a lot of absence at the same time.
Yeah.
It's very easy to see what's going on. It's simple to use and it's free.
Yeah,
so,
always helps.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us a bit about your journey and what got you into HR?
So I started in HR, well, on the back of a business degree. So I came to Leeds to do a business degree, and the third year of that course was in industry.
Okay.
So I went and I found myself a placement within a HR department, spent a year there, absolutely loved it, came back to university and basically elected for modules that had a HR theme. One of those was employment law, absolutely brilliant. And at that point I knew that I wanted to have a career in HR.
Right.
And yeah, it's just
the rest is history.
The rest is history, yeah.
So then from your point of view then with HR, because I find it's one of those topics where people don't really know too much about it, and HR can be kind of a scary term to a certain degree.
Yeah.
What is it, or when is it that someone as a business should engage or get HR support?
Yeah, so I'm really pleased you asked that actually, because I think there's quite a common misconception in small organisations that you don't need HR support, you can pretty much do it yourself. And I think it's not until businesses get to probably 20 heads and think, ooh, we could do with HR support, or it's not until something goes significantly wrong.
That's what I was going to say.
Or I'm also finding that lots of small businesses are coming to me and they've, up until this point, they've taken on family and friends, and now they're going to take on somebody different. So they just feel a little bit uncomfortable, so that they feel like they need HR support.
Yeah.
But actually, my advice to any business owner or small business is to engage in some level of HR support from before they take the first member of staff on.
So would you say that it's, if say for example there's a one-man band and a one-woman band, one-person band, and they decide that they're thinking about employing someone, or they're thinking business is going well, in 3-4 months I can see myself bringing somebody on. Would you say at that point, or would you say it's like from when they start the business, or?
I'd say from when they're starting to think about getting somebody else in, because they need to determine what skill they need, where they can find that skill, and then the recruitment part of it getting the right person on board.
Yeah.
Then there's the whole, there's obviously employment legislation that organisations need to be compliant with, and it doesn't matter what size the organisation is, you have to be compliant. So everybody has to have a contract of employment. There's 3 policies that you need, a disciplinary policy, a grievance policy, a health and safety policy. Now you'll probably know that actually there's lots of other policies that are really helpful, but they're the absolute bare essentials, and that's the kind of thing that I can help put into place. And something else that's interesting is that from the very first day you take somebody on, they've got, I think it's 78 employment rights, and you wouldn't be aware of that because you're too busy doing what you do best, running your business. So you need somebody with specialist knowledge around that area to make sure that you don't fall foul of that.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
it's like I say, from my point of view, it's always one of those. It's like a scary type of subject because you don't know what you don't know, and it's one of those things you can say the wrong thing, they can issue the wrong document, and then obviously you've got an issue on your hands. Yeah. And I don't want to make it horror, so it's like terrible, but I think it's important people understand the types of things that can go wrong, because I see it as an old school mentality where you bring someone in, you say something wrong maybe, and it's inappropriate or whatever in some kind of way, and you think, oh, don't worry about it, it's all right, it's fine. And you expect the person to just be all right with it. And I feel like those days, how many decades ago they're over. Yeah. And it's more like people start to understand their rights. If something does offend them in any way, then they can take it further. Yeah. So it's understanding what it is that people need to have in place to support themselves as the employer, but also for the employee to know what rights they have. Yeah, absolutely. So where I'm going with all this is, can you tell us a story or two that can help people understand why it's so essential they have this? Yeah, I mean, I could tell you a million stories. I could literally sit here all day. I've seen it all go horribly wrong just from something that's happened quite naively, really. And clearly there's lots of employment legislation that's been brought in over recent years to protect employees. But a case that springs to mind, which I think would be really useful for businesses to be aware of, is a case of a barber, a guy in Wales. So he had his own barber shop. He employed, so his name was Mr. Donnelly. He employed somebody called Thorley, Miss Thorley. So she started working for him as a barber in 2018. So I think there was just the two of them. So it was a very small business. And from when she started until when she left, she had quite a lot of sickness absence. I think there was something like 17 incidents in total, which was quite significant as a small business. And there was a bit of a theme. They'd generally be on the back of a weekend, and Donnelly thought that she was doing that because she'd had a heavy weekend, so he was getting a bit annoyed, which you can understand. And it was Halloween 2021, and she was either having a party or she was hosting a party, and he said to her on the Friday before she left work, don't let me down on Monday, make sure you get yourself in, we've got a lot going on. Day, and on Monday she sent him a text to say I'm not well. So he was furious, and his reaction was to dismiss her with immediate effect. He didn't follow any process and didn't really think too much of it. It was the final straw for him. But actually, she ended up putting a claim in through the employment tribunal, and she ended up winning that unfair dismissal. And he had to pay her £3,500 in compensation, and that was purely because he didn't follow a process. He probably didn't even have a disciplinary policy. And the bit that really got me was he, just before the employment tribunal,
he had to sell his car for 700 quid to pay for 2 hours of legal support.
Wow.
So yeah, it was an awful situation for all involved, and I think there's some quite key learnings to come out of that. So, you know, first of all, no matter how big or small you are, you need a policy, you need to follow it, you need to engage in some level of HR support in order to get you where you need to be. And in that case, I think if he'd have followed a process, she'd have quite possibly improved her attendance. And if she didn't, he could have then gone on to dismiss her fairly. Yeah. So it was just.
There's no case at that point, is there? If he does it in the right way.
Exactly.
I always it's like having peace of mind is how I see it with HR support, because you can drop an email or pick up the phone and ask a question. We've been through it ourselves with no case, no long dismissal or anything like that, but we've been through it in a sense of not knowing what to do or what to say. And we've had someone go on maternity leave, and it's just, how does this work? Do we let them go from today? Do they put in a request, say they want to leave a month early? And it's just not knowing. It's just peace of mind to know you're following the right procedure. Yeah. So it's like a thing of, like, I think you said already that you don't need to have any employees. It's when you're thinking to have them, to start them. And honestly, I think Mr. Donnelly got off quite lightly from being 3,500, because you hear cases where it can be tens of thousands.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So does the amount that's being what's the word, like you're being sued
awarded
for? Does that depend on the size of the business, or is it just the size of the offence? Or
well, there's a variety of things that's taken into consideration. So it would be the track record of the individual, whether they've had warnings in the past and improved. It would be, it very much depends on their length of service as well, and that kind of thing. If it's a case of discrimination, there's bands that discrimination can fall into, so that would all be looked at. But ultimately, the resources that are available within the organisation would be looked at, but you have to follow fair processes, and you can't discriminate and you can't treat people unfairly. So it doesn't really matter how big or small you are in that respect.
I get that. And then with people who have got, because there'd be so many people who've got businesses who don't have it. What would you say to those people who don't have any HR support, that have got employees and they think it's all right? What's like a message for them to really, there's a story for them to understand Mr. Donnelly, but what is it that you'd say is a message to them to move forward to get HR support?
I think, so I very much, when setting up the HR consultancy side of Nomify, part of my motivation to do that was because Paul has always had his own business, my husband. So he set up his own business when he was still at university. So since I've known him, he's had it, and I've seen him take on staff, had to manage their performance. He even had to make a member of his team redundant just before COVID and go through all that process, and it was really difficult. I don't think he'd have had a clue what to do, where to start, if it hadn't been for the fact that I was a HR professional and I could give him that support. So we're both very much quite passionate about supporting small businesses, because we appreciate that a lot of HR systems and services are set up for the bigger organisations that are quite cash rich, but ultimately everybody does need HR support. So that's kind of where our offering comes in. It's a very flexible offering around the needs of the business, so don't be put off thinking you're going to have to sign up to a contract, you're going to have to pay excessive fees. That's not how we do it. So how my offering works is you can literally buy a bundle of my hours directly from my website, and then you can tap into that as and when you need to at any point within a 12-month period. So I think the message that I'm trying to get out there is it's not actually that scary.
Yeah.
You don't have to sign your life away.
Yeah.
You can come and get some support and advice from me, and you can then use me as and when you need to, dependent upon what's going on in the business. So don't be afraid. You know, I'm approachable. I can help you, and I really want to help you. Because I see that small businesses do really need that support.
Well, and that's a good way to I suppose end it with asking you, how is it that people can find you?
So our Nomify website is nomify.me. Our staff leave website is staffleave.com, and my offering is actually on the staff leave side of the website.
Okay.
So you can have a look at all of that, and anybody can contact me on my email, which is anna@nomify.me.
And Nomify, make sure I'm spelling it right, Nomify.
Yeah, that's
perfect.
right. Yeah.
That's fine. Well, thank you.
Brilliant.
Well, thank you for joining me.
Thank
you
you
for sharing all your wisdom and knowledge, and thank everybody for listening. And as always, please do like, share, subscribe and comment and review so we can get this pushed out as far and wide as possible so a lot of people can hear about these businesses and obviously support as well at the same time. Thanks for listening.